When Greek historian Herodotus stepped off that boat onto Egyptian soil for the first time, he basically lost his mind. Like, imagine visiting a place where everything you thought was normal is completely backwards. That's what Egypt was for him. He straight up accused them of reversing the ordinary practices of mankind. Marriage, love, public affection, all of it seemed upside down to this guy. And honestly, he wasn't entirely wrong. The way Egyptians approached relationships was pretty wild compared to other ancient civilizations. Oh, and if you're enjoying these stories, I'd really appreciate a like or subscribe. Super curious where you're all listening from, so drop a comment with your location and what time it is there. Always blows my mind how people are falling asleep to this all over the world. All right, find that cozy spot. Take a nice slow breath and just let your body sink into whatever you're lying on. We're heading back to ancient Egypt, so congratulations. You just woke up in ancient Egypt. The first thing that hits you is the heat, not the gentle warmth of modern central heating, but that bone-deep desert heat that makes your skin prickle with sweat almost instantly. You're lying on a reed mat that crackles beneath you, nothing like your memory, foam back home. Through the small window cut into the mud brick wall, you can see the sky is just beginning to lighten, turning that distinctive Egyptian blue that artists have tried to capture for centuries. The smells around you are intense. There's the earthy scent of the Nile, a muddy sweetness that seems to permeate everything. Closer, you catch whiffs of cooking fires starting up outside, bread baking somewhere nearby. And there's another smell, the distinct aroma of Kefi incense burning in a small copper dish near the door, a mixture of myrrh, frankincense and raisins that was supposed to please the gods and purify the home. You sit up and your bare feet touch the packed earth floor, cool against your skin despite the growing heat of the day. Outside, you hear voices calling to each other, the clatter of pottery, the distant bray of a donkey pulling a cart. Life is already bustling and the sun has barely risen. Welcome to Egypt. The year is, well, Egyptians wouldn't recognize our calendar system, but let's say it's around 1400 BCE, during what we now call the New Kingdom, and you're about to learn something pretty fascinating about this place. Love and marriage here aren't what you'd expect at all. Now, if you're lying there thinking about all those History Channel documentaries about Egyptian pharaohs marrying their sisters and weird incest stuff, I'm gonna stop you right there. Yes, royal marriages were often between siblings, but that was basically just for the royal family. Regular folks like you and me, totally different story. For most ancient Egyptians, marriage was surprisingly practical yet deeply personal, a mix of business arrangement and genuine affection that would honestly put some modern relationships to shame. So here's the first thing that would have blown Herodotus's mind. Marriage in ancient Egypt wasn't a religious ceremony at all. In fact, there wasn't even a ceremony. No white dress, no walking down the aisle, no "you may now kiss the bride." None of that. You shift slightly on your reed mat, finding a more comfortable position. The sounds of the waking village continue outside your window. Women talking as they head to the Nile for water, children's laughter, the rhythmic scraping of dough being kneaded for the morning bread. Basically, here's how Egyptian marriage worked. When a young man was ready, usually around 16 to 20 years old, he'd look for a partner. Girls were typically younger, often just after their first menses, around 12 to 14. Young by our standards, sure, but when life expectancy was about 30-35 years, you didn't exactly have time to spend a decade finding yourself before settling down. You stretch and stand up, your joints cracking pleasantly. Across the small room, a clay jar of water sits waiting. You dip a cloth into it and wipe the night's sweat from your face and neck. The water is cool against your skin, a small mercy in this heat. The most important thing for marriage wasn't love, at least not initially. It was stability. A man needed to have a job, some kind of income, his own house. Women weren't expected to bring financial stability to the marriage, but they did bring domestic skills and often a dowry of household items. When families agreed on a match, and yes, parents usually had a major say, they'd draw up what was essentially a prenuptial agreement. This contract laid out what property each person brought into the marriage and what would happen to it if things didn't work out. Pretty modern, right? But here's where it gets really interesting. Once all the negotiations were done, there was no big ceremony, no priest blessing the union, no signatures on a marriage certificate. The woman simply gathered her belongings and moved into the man's house. That's it. That was the whole wedding. The moment she crossed his threshold with her stuff, they were considered married. Outside your window, you notice a young woman carrying a small wooden chest toward a house down the street. Following her are two older women with baskets of linens, pottery, and other household goods. You're witnessing exactly this, a new bride moving her possessions into her husband's home. The beginning of a marriage, ancient Egyptian style. The young woman looks nervous but excited. The neighbours have come out to watch and call good wishes. There's a festive atmosphere, even without a formal ceremony. A few musicians have appeared, playing simple reed flutes and small hand drums. The rhythm is hypnotic, a gentle pulse that seems to match the beating of your own heart as you watch. Your body feels heavy and comfortable as you lean against the cool mud brick wall, observing this scene from history unfolding before you. Now, you might be thinking this all sounds pretty transactional, and yeah, there was definitely a practical aspect to it, but here's the thing that made Egyptian marriage different from a lot of other ancient cultures. Women had rights, like serious rights that women in Greece or Rome, or basically anywhere else, wouldn't get for thousands of years. For starters, that prenuptial agreement we talked about, it protected the woman's property. Whatever she brought into the marriage remained hers. The husband couldn't touch it. She could also inherit property from her parents independently of her husband, and she could buy and sell property without his permission. You decide to follow the small wedding procession, your bare feet padding softly on the packed earth of the street. The heat is building as the sun climbs higher, and you can feel sweat beginning to trickle down your back. The smell of bread baking makes your stomach rumble. You haven't eaten yet today. The crowd turns down another street, and you follow, drawn by the music and celebration. The narrow street provides some blessed shade, and you feel your shoulders relax a bit as you escape the direct sun. What's really wild is that Egyptian women could divorce their husbands. Just like that, if things weren't working out, a woman could simply leave, taking all her original property plus a divorce settlement that was usually about 1/3 of the marital assets. In a world where women were basically considered property themselves in most places, this was revolutionary. Of course, men could divorce their wives too, but they'd have to pay up, and either way, any children from the marriage would stay with the mother. The father might provide some support, but custody defaulted to mom. Again, mind-blowing for the ancient world. The procession has stopped at a modest but well-kept house. The young bride is being welcomed by her new husband, a man perhaps a few years older than her. He looks nervous too, eager to please. His friends are clapping him on the back, making jokes that make him blush. The bride's mother is wiping away tears, but they seem to be happy ones. You lean against a wall across the street, your body feeling pleasantly heavy as you observe this moment happening before you. This simple, ceremony-free wedding is the foundation of Egyptian family life. But the really interesting thing about Egyptian marriage wasn't the legal stuff. It was the emotions. Despite marriages often being arranged for practical reasons, Egyptians actually valued romantic love. A lot. You close your eyes for a moment, feeling the rough texture of the mud brick wall against your back grounding you in this ancient moment. When you open them again, the bride and groom are sharing a shy smile. Despite all the practical arrangements that brought them here, there's a genuine warmth between them. The evidence for love in ancient Egypt is everywhere once you start looking. Their poetry is full of it, passionate, romantic verses that could rival anything from Shakespeare. To hear your voice is pomegranate wine to me. I draw life from hearing it. Could I see you with every glance, it would be better for me than to eat or to drink. Beautiful, right? This kind of love poetry was incredibly popular, especially during the New Kingdom period. Egyptians loved to express their feelings about each other, and they weren't shy about physical affection either. As you watch, the new husband takes his wife's hand and leads her into their home. The threshold moment, the actual marriage in Egyptian terms, has already happened, but this entrance together is clearly meaningful to them both. The crowd cheers, the musicians play more enthusiastically, and someone breaks out jars of beer to share around. You can almost taste the thick, slightly sweet Egyptian beer in the air. It was much heartier than our modern beers, more like a meal in a jar, often flavoured with dates or honey. The celebration is getting livelier now, and you feel your own spirits lifting as you watch. Now, here's another fascinating thing about Egyptian marriage. They believed it continued into the afterlife. Egyptians were obsessed with eternity, right? All those pyramids and mummies and elaborate tombs. Well, they thought a good marriage would last forever. Literally. Couples were often buried together or in adjoining tombs with paintings showing them holding hands, embracing, sometimes even with their children around them. That's why being a good spouse was so important. Nobody wanted to be stuck with a jerk for all eternity. This belief actually encouraged people to work on their relationships and treat each other well because, hey, till death do us part wasn't a thing. It was forever and ever, including the afterlife. The wedding celebration is spreading now, with neighbours bringing out food to share. The scent of fresh bread, roasted fish from the Nile, and sweet honey cakes fills the air. Your stomach growls again, reminding you that you still haven't eaten. A kind-looking older woman notices you standing alone and gestures for you to join them. You hesitate. You're not exactly dressed in period-appropriate clothing, but her smile is so welcoming that you find yourself moving forward anyway. She presses a piece of warm, fresh bread into your hand. It's denser than modern bread, with a nutty flavour from the coarse-ground emmer wheat it's made from. The crust is perfectly crisp, the inside still steaming. It might be the most delicious thing you've ever tasted. Or maybe it's just the magic of eating bread that was baked 3,400 years ago. Your body feels increasingly heavy and comfortable as you eat, the simple pleasure of good food and friendly company washing over you. You find a spot to sit on a low stone wall, your muscles relaxing as you continue to observe the celebration. Let's talk about what happened in the bedroom, because that's where things get really interesting. Unlike many ancient cultures, and honestly plenty of modern ones, Egyptians had a pretty healthy attitude towards sex. They saw it as a natural, normal part of life, not something shameful or solely for procreation. And this is where poor Herodotus really lost it. Egyptians were openly affectionate with each other. They held hands in public, embraced, and generally weren't shy about showing their feelings. This was shocking to Greeks like Herodotus, who lived in a society where women were basically kept secluded and public displays of affection were a big no-no. The music has shifted to a slower, more sensual rhythm. A few couples have begun dancing, their movements fluid and graceful. It's not the highly choreographed dancing of temple ceremonies, but something more natural and spontaneous. The newly married couple joins in, clearly a bit shy with each other still, but moving together with increasing confidence. You feel your own body swaying slightly to the rhythm, the weight of it pleasantly heavy against the stone wall where you sit. The bread sits warm in your stomach and someone has handed you a small cup of beer. It's thick and rich, almost like a meal in itself, with a tangy sweetness that's nothing like modern beer. What's more, premarital sex wasn't taboo in ancient Egypt. There's no word for virgin in the ancient Egyptian language, which tells you a lot about their attitudes. Young people were expected to explore their sexuality before marriage. It wasn't stigmatized, especially for women. Can you imagine how revolutionary this would seem to Herodotus or pretty much any other ancient civilization? Of course, once you were married, fidelity was important. Both husbands and wives were expected to be faithful to each other. Adultery was considered a serious offence, though it was defined somewhat differently for men and women. A married woman sleeping with anyone other than her husband was adultery. For men, sleeping with another man's wife was adultery, but having relations with an unmarried woman wasn't seen the same way. The dance continues, growing more energetic. The bride and groom are laughing now, their initial shyness giving way to joy. Their bodies move in harmony, already learning each other's rhythms. It's beautiful to watch, this beginning of a partnership that will shape their lives. You sip your beer slowly, feeling the pleasant weight of your body against the wall, the gentle fatigue of the day settling into your muscles. The afternoon sun casts long shadows now, and the quality of light has changed to that magical golden hour that photographers chase. Speaking of expectations in marriage, let's talk about children. Like most ancient societies, Egyptians wanted children. Lots of them. High infant mortality rates meant that having many children was the best way to ensure some survive to adulthood. But unlike other ancient cultures, Egyptians valued daughters almost as much as sons. Almost. But not quite. Sons were still preferred for carrying on the family name and taking care of parents in their old age. But daughters were valued too, and female infanticide, the practice of killing unwanted baby girls, doesn't seem to have been a thing in Egypt, like it was in many other ancient cultures. The party is winding down now as evening approaches. The bride and groom have retreated into their new home, and neighbours are beginning to drift away. The musicians pack up their instruments, accepting thanks and payment from the bride's father. You finish your beer, feeling pleasantly tired now. Your limbs feel heavy, your eyelids wanting to droop. The stone wall beneath you is still warm from the day's heat, comforting against your back. But before we wrap up this first part of our journey into Egyptian love and marriage, there's one more fascinating aspect to explore: fertility and pregnancy. Egyptians had a weird but surprisingly effective method for determining if a woman was pregnant. She would pee on barley and emmer wheat seeds. If the barley sprouted, she was pregnant with a boy. If the emmer wheat sprouted, it would be a girl. If neither sprouted, she wasn't pregnant at all. Here's the crazy part. Modern scientists have tested this, and it actually works about 70% of the time for detecting pregnancy, though not for predicting gender. Turns out pregnancy hormones in urine can indeed stimulate seed growth. The streets are quieter now as dusk falls. Oil lamps are being lit in windows, casting a warm, flickering glow. The temperature is finally dropping, bringing blessed relief from the day's heat. Your body feels increasingly heavy, sinking into a pleasant state of relaxation. Childbirth itself was dangerous business, of course. It was handled by midwives, not physicians, and was viewed as a natural process rather than a medical event. Women gave birth in a squatting position on special birthing bricks, surrounded by other women who would provide support and encouragement. Amulets and prayers to gods like Taweret, a hippo goddess who protected mothers and children, and Bez, a dwarf god who scared away evil spirits, were essential parts of the process. If a child survived to age 5, they could generally look forward to a decent lifespan for the ancient world, about 30-35 years for common folks, and up to 50-60 years for the upper classes who had better nutrition and didn't have to do hard physical labour. As darkness falls completely, the village grows quiet. Only the occasional bark of a dog or distant laugh breaks the silence. The stars above are brilliant in a way you never see in the modern world, unpolluted by electric lights. The Milky Way stretches across the sky like a river of stars, and you can understand why the Egyptians saw the sky as a cosmic extension of their beloved Nile. Your body feels incredibly heavy now, sinking into the ground beneath you. Your breathing has slowed, becoming deep and regular. The sights and sounds of ancient Egypt are fading slightly as your awareness turns inward. You feel yourself drifting, floating on the current of history. The warm stone against your back, the lingering taste of bread and beer on your tongue, the distant music still echoing in your ears. All of it merges into a gentle cocoon of sensation. Tomorrow, we'll explore more about Egyptian love and marriage, the poetry they wrote to each other, the perfumes they wore to seduce their partners, the elaborate tombs they built to be together for eternity. But for now, you're here in this moment, your body relaxed and comfortable, your mind full of images of a world where love and marriage looked very different from our own. The gentle weight of history settles around you like a comfortable blanket. Your breathing deepens further. The stars wheel slowly overhead, the same stars that watched over ancient Egypt, that will continue to watch over our world long after we're gone. There's comfort in that continuity, that connection across time. Your limbs feel pleasantly heavy, your thoughts growing slower and more dreamlike. The sounds of the village have faded to almost nothing now, just the occasional rustle of palm fronds in the night breeze. Your body feels at peace, sinking deeper into relaxation with each breath, as the story of ancient Egyptian love and marriage continues to unfold in your mind. The morning sun climbs higher over the mud brick houses, casting long shadows across the narrow streets. You've woken early, your body attuned to the rhythms of this ancient world where most activity happens before the brutal midday heat sets in. The air still holds a hint of coolness from the night, but it's already evaporating like a dream upon waking. You stretch, feeling your muscles loosen pleasantly. The reed mat beneath you crackles as you sit up. That same earthy smell of the Nile hangs in the air, mingled now with the sense of cooking fires and fresh bread. Your stomach rumbles, reminding you that it's time to find something to eat. Outside, women are already lined up at the communal bread ovens, chatting as they wait for their loaves to bake. Children dart between houses, playing some game involving small clay tokens. A couple walks past, their hands casually intertwined, and you remember what you learned yesterday about Egyptian attitudes toward affection and marriage. Speaking of marriage, there's something fascinating about the actual process of finding a spouse in ancient Egypt. While parents often had significant input, young people weren't completely without choice, and the courtship process, honestly, it wasn't that different from modern dating in some ways. You make your way to a small market that's sprung up in a wider section of the street. Vendors have laid out mats with goods for sale, vegetables, fish from the Nile, beads, simple tools. You accept a piece of flatbread from a smiling woman who seems to recognize you from yesterday's wedding celebration. The bread is still warm, slightly chewy, with a nutty flavor that speaks of a simpler, purer grain than modern wheat. As you chew slowly, savouring the unfamiliar yet comforting taste, you notice a young man and woman standing near a stall selling flowers and perfume oils. They're not touching, but the way they look at each other speaks volumes. He purchases a small blue lotus flower and offers it to her. She accepts it with a shy smile, bringing it to her nose to inhale its delicate fragrance. You're witnessing Egyptian courtship in action. Blue lotus flowers were powerful symbols of love and fertility associated with rebirth and the sun. They were also mildly psychoactive, producing feelings of relaxation and euphoria when brewed into wine or tea. Not exactly a box of chocolates, but definitely a romantic gesture. Your body feels comfortable and at ease as you lean against a mud brick wall, observing this moment across the centuries. The rough texture of the bricks against your back is strangely soothing, grounding you in this ancient reality. Courtship in ancient Egypt involved gifts like flowers, jewelry, or love poems written on papyrus or pottery shards. Young people might meet at religious festivals or family gatherings or be introduced by their parents. There were no formal dating rituals, but there were definitely ways to show interest and attraction. The couple has moved on now, walking close together without quite touching. They stop occasionally to look at other market stalls, clearly enjoying this simple time together before marriage might formalize their relationship. You finish your bread and decide to follow them at a respectful distance, curious about this glimpse into ancient romance. Your feet move quietly on the packed earth of the street, your body feeling pleasantly heavy and relaxed despite the growing heat of the day. What's particularly interesting about Egyptian courtship is how straightforward it could be. If a young man was interested in a woman, he might send a female relative as a go-between to speak with her mother. If the initial response was positive, gifts would follow and eventually the families would meet to discuss more practical matters. The young couple has stopped again, this time at a stall selling amulets and small statues of the gods. The man points to a figure of Hathor, the goddess of love, beauty and music, often depicted with cow horns and a sun disk. The woman nods and he purchases the small statuette for her. Their choices are significant. Hathor wasn't just any goddess. She was specifically associated with feminine love, sexuality, and motherhood. By giving her a Hathor amulet, he's making his intentions pretty clear. You shift your weight from one foot to the other, feeling the pleasant heaviness in your limbs. The heat is building now, and you notice most people are beginning to seek shade. The couple does the same, moving beneath an awning where a vendor sells cool drinks. Now, let's talk about what made a person attractive in ancient Egypt, because it's both familiar and strange to modern eyes. Beauty standards existed, of course, but they were different from what you might expect. For women, the ideal was slim but with full hips, suggesting fertility, small breasts, and a symmetrical face. Men were ideally broad-shouldered with narrow hips, strong arms, and defined legs. Both genders preferred clear skin, bright eyes, and healthy white teeth. Sound familiar so far? But here's where it gets interesting. Both men and women wore makeup, heavy black kohl around their eyes, green malachite eyeshadow, rouge for the cheeks, and henna for the lips and nails. This wasn't just for beauty. The heavy eye makeup helped protect against the glare of the sun, and even had antibacterial properties that prevented eye infections. Your gaze drifts to a woman arranging jewelry at a nearby stall. Her eyes are dramatically lined with thick black kohl, the lines extending out toward her temples. The effect is striking against her warm brown skin. You notice that almost everyone around you wears some form of eye makeup, regardless of gender or social status. The heat is becoming intense now. You can feel sweat beading on your forehead and upper lip. You wipe it away, wishing you had some of that kohl to protect your eyes from the glare. Your body feels heavy in the heat, your movements becoming slower, more deliberate. Egyptians also placed huge importance on scent. Both men and women wore perfumes and scented oils. The wealthier you were, the more complex and expensive your fragrance would be. Common scents included lotus, myrrh, frankincense, cinnamon, and various flowers and resins. Some wealthy people would even wear cones of scented fat on top of their wigs at parties. As the fat melted in the heat, it would release fragrance and condition their skin. Kind of gross by modern standards, but incredibly effective in the dry Egyptian climate. The couple you've been observing is now seated in the shade, drinking what looks like beer from small pottery cups. They're talking animatedly, their faces bright with interest in each other. You feel a small surge of happiness for these two people who've been dust for thousands of years. In this moment, they're alive and falling in love. Your own body feels increasingly heavy in the midday heat. Your movements are slower, you're breathing deeper. You find a spot in the shade and sink down, your back against a cool wall. The physical sensations of ancient Egypt, the heat, the scents, the textures, are overwhelming but strangely comforting. Let's talk about what happened after marriage. When the bride had moved into her husband's home and their life together began, the transition could be difficult, especially for young brides leaving their families for the first time. But Egyptian households often included extended family, so a new wife might find herself living with her husband's parents, siblings, and their families too. The daily routine for a married couple would depend largely on their social status. For most ordinary Egyptians, dawn meant the beginning of the workday. Men would head to the fields, construction sites, or workshops, while women typically managed the household. But here's an interesting thing. Women weren't confined to domestic duties. They could work outside the home as priestesses, mourners at funerals, dancers, musicians, or in various crafts. Some even worked alongside their husbands in family businesses or trades. Egyptian women had economic rights that wouldn't be seen again in Western civilization for thousands of years. Your eyelids feel heavy in the midday heat. Around you, the village has quieted as people retreat indoors for the hottest part of the day. The young couple has disappeared too, perhaps returning to their respective homes until evening brings cooler air. You decide to follow the local custom, finding a quiet, shaded spot to rest. Your body settles comfortably against the ground, the heat making your limbs feel wonderfully heavy and relaxed. Your breathing deepens naturally as you close your eyes. When you open them again, the quality of light has changed. The brutal midday sun has softened to the golden glow of late afternoon. You must have dozed off for a while, your body adapting to the Egyptian rhythm of work in the morning, rest during the hottest hours, and activity again in the evening. You rise, your muscles feeling loose and refreshed. The village is coming alive again as people emerge from their homes. The air is filled with conversation, laughter, the clatter of pottery being set out for the evening meal. As the day cools, you notice more couples out walking together, talking and laughing. Public displays of affection were common and accepted in ancient Egypt. In tomb paintings and other artwork, spouses are often shown holding hands, embracing, or with their arms around each other's shoulders or waists. This openness extended to their poetry as well. Love poems from ancient Egypt are surprisingly direct about desire and physical attraction. Here's one from the Chester Beatty Papyrus that wouldn't feel out of place in a modern love letter. My heart flutters hastily when I think of my love of you. It lets me not act sensibly. It leaps from its place. Your feet carry you toward the Nile, where people are gathering as the heat subsides. The great river gleams in the late afternoon light, a ribbon of molten gold winding through the green valley. Along its banks, couples stroll together, families set out simple picnics, and children splash in the shallows. You find a spot on the riverbank, the grass surprisingly soft beneath you. Your body settles comfortably, sinking into the natural contours of the ground. The air here is cooler, carrying the river's breath, and you feel your skin prickle pleasantly with the change in temperature. On a nearby blanket, a couple sits close together, sharing a meal from a single plate. They feed each other choice morsels, their heads bent close in conversation. There's an easy intimacy between them that speaks of a marriage built on genuine affection, not just social obligation. What you're seeing reflects the Egyptian ideal of marriage, a partnership based on mutual respect and, ideally, love. The ancient Egyptians believed that a good marriage should bring joy and comfort to both partners. This is reflected in their wisdom literature, where men are advised to love your wife with proper attention and make her heart glad as long as you live. Your body feels increasingly heavy and comfortable as you sit by the river, watching the life of ancient Egypt unfold around you. The rhythmic sound of the water lapping against the shore syncs with your breathing, which has grown deeper and more relaxed. Women in Egyptian marriages had rights that were extraordinary for the ancient world. They could own property independently of their husbands, run businesses, testify in court, and initiate divorce. Marriage contracts protected their financial interests, ensuring they wouldn't be left destitute if the marriage ended. One marriage contract from around 200 BCE states, "If I divorce you, I will give you 20 pieces of silver and return to you all that you brought." Another specifies that the husband must provide a certain amount of grain, oil, and money each month for his wife's support. The sun is beginning to set now, painting the sky in shades of gold, orange, and deep blue. Along the riverbank, oil lamps are being lit, creating pools of warm light as darkness gathers. The couple you've been observing rises, gathering their belongings. They walk hand in hand back toward the village, their silhouettes merging with the growing shadows. Your own body feels wonderfully heavy now, sinking deeper into the soft grass. The gentle sounds of the river and distant voices create a soothing backdrop as night falls over ancient Egypt. Let's talk about the physical space of an Egyptian marriage, the home. For ordinary Egyptians, houses were typically made of mud brick with few windows to keep out the heat. They were often simple, with a main room for cooking and daily activities, sleeping areas that might be divided by curtains, and perhaps a roof terrace where family members would sleep during hot nights. Furniture was minimal by modern standards. Reed mats served as seating during the day and bedding at night. Wealthier homes might have wooden chairs, stools, and bed frames with woven cord or leather straps supporting a thin mattress. Storage consisted of baskets, pottery jars, and wooden chests. The simplicity might seem austere to modern eyes, but these spaces were designed for the Egyptian climate and way of life. The thick mud brick walls kept interiors relatively cool during the day and released stored heat at night when temperatures dropped. Homes were places to sleep and store possessions while much of daily life happened outdoors. The darkness is nearly complete now, with only the stars and the scattered oil lamps providing light. The air has cooled considerably, a blessed relief after the day's heat. Your body feels increasingly heavy and relaxed, the tension of the day melting away into the soft ground beneath you. Marriage beds themselves were simple by our standards, usually a wooden frame with woven palm fronds or linen cords creating a base for a thin mattress stuffed with wool, linen, or dried plant fibers. Linen sheets and perhaps a light blanket would complete the bed. Headrests made of wood, stone, or ivory replaced pillows, designed to support the head while keeping elaborate hairstyles intact. Sexual relations between married couples were considered healthy and normal. Unlike many later cultures, the Egyptians didn't surround sex with shame or taboo. They viewed it as a natural, pleasurable part of life and marriage. The god Min, with his perpetually erect phallus, was celebrated rather than hidden away. This healthy attitude extended to contraception. The Egyptians had various methods for preventing pregnancy, including spermicidal recipes made from acacia gum, honey, and crocodile dung. While that last ingredient might make you cringe, acacia gum actually does have spermicidal properties. They also used linen sheaths, similar to modern condoms, and various herbal preparations as contraceptives and abortifacients. Your eyelids feel heavier now, your breathing slow and deep. The sounds of the village have quieted, with only the occasional voice or barking dog breaking the night stillness. The stars above you are brilliant, unpolluted by modern light, forming patterns that guided Egyptian astronomy and religious beliefs. Family planning was important because children were highly desired. Infertility was considered a grave misfortune, and there were numerous religious practices, magical spells, and medical treatments aimed at helping couples conceive. Women would pray to gods associated with fertility, particularly Hathor, Isis, and Taweret, offering them special cakes shaped like male or female genitalia. Subtle, right? Both sons and daughters were valued, though sons had certain social advantages and responsibilities, particularly in caring for parents in their old age and performing necessary funeral rites. But daughters were not considered burdens as they were in many other ancient cultures. They could inherit property equally with their brothers and were not seen as financial drains requiring expensive dowries. The night has deepened around you, the air cool against your skin. Your body feels wonderfully heavy, sinking deeper into the soft earth beneath you. Each breath comes slower, deeper than the last. The gentle lapping of the Nile creates a soothing rhythm that seems to match your heartbeat. When children came along, they were raised primarily by their mothers in the early years, but fathers were involved in their upbringing too. Egyptian art often shows fathers holding and playing with their children, suggesting that men took an active role in childcare, something that wasn't common in many other ancient societies. As children grew, they would be educated according to their social class and gender. Boys from wealthy families might learn to read and write, preparing for careers as scribes, priests, or officials. Girls were typically taught household management, though some also learned to read and write. Children from farming families would learn agricultural skills from their parents, while those from artisan families would be taught the family trade. The sky above you is a tapestry of stars, the Milky Way a river of light mirroring the Nile below. Your breathing has slowed to a gentle rhythm, your body feeling as though it's floating on the current of history. The sounds of ancient Egypt, the river, the nightbirds, the distant voices weave together into a soothing blanket of sound. Despite the often practical nature of Egyptian marriage, the evidence suggests that many couples genuinely loved each other. Tomb paintings show spouses in affectionate poses, love poetry speaks of deep emotional and physical desire, and funerary texts express hopes for reunion in the afterlife. One particularly touching piece of evidence comes from the tomb of Nyankakhnum and Khnumhotep, two royal manicurists from the 5th dynasty. They're depicted in poses usually reserved for married couples, embracing, holding hands, noses touching, the Egyptian equivalent of kissing. Scholars debate whether they were brothers, friends, or romantic partners, but the affection between them is unmistakable. Your consciousness is drifting now, floating between the present and this ancient world you've been exploring. Your body feels deliciously heavy, sinking deeper into relaxation with each breath. The sounds of the Nile and the night breeze through palm fronds create a gentle lullaby. The legacy of Egyptian marriage practices is a reminder that our modern Western concepts of marriage and gender roles aren't universal or timeless. The Egyptians created a system that, while not perfect, gave women remarkable rights and recognized the importance of mutual affection and respect between spouses. As you lie beneath the Egyptian stars, your body completely relaxed and at peace, you can almost feel the weight of history settling around you like a comfortable blanket. The Nile continues its eternal flow, just as it did when these marriage customs were living practices rather than historical curiosities. Your breathing has found the rhythm of the river, deep and steady. The tensions of the day have melted away, leaving only a pleasant heaviness in your limbs. Tomorrow we'll explore more about Egyptian love, marriage, and family life, the challenges couples faced, how they resolved conflicts, and the ultimate expression of their bond in the journey to the afterlife. But for now, you're here in this moment, suspended between worlds, your body completely at ease as the ancient Egyptian night embraces you. The first light of dawn paints the eastern sky with pale gold and rose. You find yourself awake early, your body having adjusted to the natural rhythms of ancient Egypt where people rise with the sun. The air holds that brief, precious coolness that will evaporate as soon as the sun climbs higher. You stretch on your reed mat, feeling your muscles loosen pleasantly. Outside, you can hear the village coming to life, the soft pad of bare feet on packed earth, the clatter of pottery as women prepare breakfast, the distant call of birds along the Nile. Today, you're curious about what daily married life was actually like for the ancient Egyptians. We've talked about how marriages were formed and the surprising rights women had, but what about the day-to-day reality? You rise and step outside, the cool earth pleasant against your bare feet. The smell of baking bread fills the air, making your stomach rumble with hunger. Women are already at the communal ovens, shaping dough into flat rounds or forming it into cones and loaves. Their hands move with practiced efficiency, their bodies swaying slightly as they work. Many chat and laugh together, turning a chore into a social occasion. Marriage in ancient Egypt was all about partnership and complementary roles. Men and women each had their domains, but these weren't as rigidly separated as in many ancient and not so ancient cultures. A woman standing near the ovens notices you and smiles, gesturing for you to join them. She hands you a piece of warm flatbread straight from the oven. It's denser than modern bread, with a nutty, earthy flavour. You savour it slowly, the simple pleasure of fresh bread transcending time and cultural differences. The woman who offered you bread is showing another, younger woman how to tell when the loaves are perfectly baked. From their resemblance, they might be mother and daughter, or perhaps sisters. This informal teaching, woman to woman, was how domestic skills were passed down through generations. Your body feels comfortable and at ease in the growing warmth of the morning. The bread settles pleasantly in your stomach and you find yourself drawn toward the river where more of the village's morning activities are taking place. For ordinary Egyptian families, the household was the woman's domain. She was responsible for managing domestic resources, grinding grain, baking bread, brewing beer, preparing meals, making and mending clothing, and raising children. This wasn't seen as demeaning work, but as essential to the family's well-being and prosperity. As you approach the riverbank, you see women washing clothing, beating fabric against smooth stones and laying it out to dry in the sun. Others are filling water jars to carry back to their homes. The Nile is the lifeblood of Egypt, central to every aspect of daily existence. A young couple catches your eye. The woman is filling a large clay jar while her husband waits nearby with a wooden yoke designed to help carry 2 jars at once. When she's finished, he carefully positions the yoke across his shoulders, hooks the jars onto either end, and they walk back toward the village together, talking quietly. This small moment illustrates something important about Egyptian marriage. While there were distinct gender roles, there was also flexibility and cooperation. The woman has collected the water, traditionally a female task, but her husband is helping carry the heavy jars. They're working as a team. You follow them at a distance, curious about this glimpse into ordinary married life. The sun is higher now, its heat beginning to intensify. Sweat beads on your forehead and upper lip. You wipe it away, understanding why Egyptians preferred loose, light linen clothing and shaved their heads beneath their wigs. The couple enters a modest mud brick house. Through the open doorway, you glimpse a simple interior. Reed mats on the floor, a few wooden stools, pottery storage jars lined against one wall. The man carefully sets down the water jars in a corner while his wife begins grinding grain in a stone quern. Their movements around each other have the easy familiarity of a long-established routine. Your body feels surprisingly comfortable in the growing heat, your muscles loose and relaxed. You find a shady spot beneath a palm tree, settling down to continue observing village life as the day unfolds. Men's work typically took them outside the home, to fields, workshops, construction sites, or government offices, depending on their occupation. Farmers, who made up the majority of the population, worked from dawn until midday, returning home for the main meal and rest during the hottest part of the day. Artisans like carpenters, potters, metalworkers, and stonecutters usually worked in workshops, often passing their skills to their sons, who would eventually take over the family trade. Scribes worked in government offices, temples, or for wealthy private individuals, keeping records and handling correspondence. The village is quieter now as the sun climbs toward its zenith. Most people have retreated indoors to escape the worst of the heat. Your own body feels pleasantly heavy in the shade, your breathing naturally slowing to match the more relaxed rhythm of midday. Let's talk about the challenges Egyptian couples faced. Like married people everywhere and in every time, they had disagreements, faced hardships, and had to find ways to resolve conflicts. One common source of tension was probably extended family. Most households included not just the married couple and their children, but also parents, unmarried siblings, and sometimes other relatives. Living in close quarters with in-laws has tested marriages throughout history, and ancient Egypt was likely no exception. Financial stress was another potential challenge. The Egyptian economy was based primarily on agriculture, which meant that a poor flood or crop failure could bring hardship even to previously comfortable families. Taxes were collected in the form of grain, and failure to pay could result in forced labor. These pressures would certainly have strained some marriages. Your eyelids feel heavy in the midday heat. Around you, the village is silent except for the occasional bark of a dog or cry of a child. Your body sinks deeper into the soft ground, muscles completely relaxed as your breathing slows to a gentle rhythm. When you open your eyes again, the quality of light has changed. The harsh midday sun has softened to the golden glow of late afternoon. You must have dozed off for a while, your body adapting naturally to the Egyptian pattern of midday rest. The village is coming alive again as people emerge from their homes. Women gather at the well, collecting water and exchanging news. Men return from the fields or workshops, tools slung over their shoulders. Children play in the dusty streets, their laughter carrying on the warm air. So how did Egyptian couples resolve their conflicts? While we don't have ancient Egyptian marriage counseling manuals, we do have wisdom texts that offer advice on family harmony. These suggest that communication, respect, and compromise were valued, not so different from modern relationship advice. One text advises men, do not control your wife in her house when you know she is efficient. Don't say to her, where is it? Get it, when she has already put it in the right place. This suggests that micromanaging one's spouse was just as annoying 3,500 years ago as it is today. You rise, stretching pleasantly, and begin walking through the village. The air is still warm, but no longer oppressive. Your body feels refreshed from the rest, muscles loose and comfortable. A small commotion catches your attention. A man and woman are having an animated discussion outside their home. From their gestures and expressions, it's clearly an argument. Neighbors glance over but don't seem particularly concerned or surprised. You can't understand their words, but the dynamic is familiar, a disagreement between spouses that's playing out partly in public. After a few minutes, the woman throws up her hands and walks away toward the river. The man stands for a moment, then goes back inside the house. What you've just witnessed might be an ordinary marital spat, frustrating in the moment but likely to be resolved. But what happened when Egyptian marriages broke down completely? As we mentioned earlier, divorce was relatively straightforward and available to both husbands and wives. Either spouse could initiate divorce, though the terms varied. If a husband wanted to divorce his wife, he would need to return her dowry and pay a financial penalty. If a wife wanted to divorce her husband, she could do so without penalty but might not receive the same financial settlement. You follow a path toward the river, drawn by the sounds of activity. Your feet move silently on the packed earth, your body feeling pleasantly heavy despite the walk. The golden afternoon light casts long shadows, giving the landscape a dreamlike quality. At the riverbank, you find people engaged in various activities. Men are fishing from small boats, casting nets into the water. Women wash clothing, beating it against smooth stones. Children splash in the shallows, their high voices carrying across the water. Among them, you notice the woman who was arguing with her husband earlier. She's sitting alone, weaving a basket from river reeds, her movements quick and aggressive, clearly still annoyed. Another woman approaches and sits beside her. They talk quietly, the second woman occasionally patting the first one's arm in a gesture of comfort. This small scene illustrates another important aspect of marriage in ancient Egypt, the community context. People lived in close proximity, and privacy as we understand it today was limited. Marriages existed within a network of relationships, with friends and family often providing counsel, support, and sometimes intervention when conflicts arose. Your body feels increasingly relaxed as you find a comfortable spot on the riverbank. The muscles in your legs and back release their tension, sinking into the soft ground. The rhythm of the river flowing past matches your breathing, which has grown deeper and more even. Now, let's talk about something really interesting, the contrast between royal marriages and those of ordinary Egyptians. We've mostly been discussing how marriage worked for common people, but the pharaohs and royal family played by different rules. Royal marriages were primarily political alliances. The pharaoh would have one great royal wife who was his principal spouse and the mother of his heir, but he could also have numerous secondary wives. Unlike common Egyptians who practiced monogamy, the pharaoh's multiple marriages were seen as a reflection of his divine status. More shocking to modern sensibilities was the practice of sibling marriage within the royal family. Pharaohs often married their sisters or half-sisters, a practice that would have been taboo for ordinary Egyptians. This was justified by divine precedent. The gods Osiris and Isis were brother and sister, as well as husband and wife. The sun is beginning to set now, painting the sky in shades of gold, orange, and deep purple. Along the Nile, people are gathering up their belongings and heading back to the village. Your own body feels wonderfully heavy and relaxed, the day's heat slowly dissipating as evening approaches. Let's look at some famous royal marriages as examples. Ramses II had 8 royal wives, but his favourite was clearly Nefertari. He built her a magnificent tomb in the Valley of the Queens and dedicated a temple to her at Abu Simbel, where her statues are the same size as his, a significant honour indicating her importance. Then there's the famous case of Akhenaten and Nefertiti. They're often portrayed in unusually intimate poses with natural, affectionate gestures between them. Their relationship seems to have been a true partnership, with Nefertiti elevated to an almost equal status with her husband. She's even shown in art smiting Egypt's enemies, a role traditionally reserved for the pharaoh. Perhaps most famous of all is Cleopatra, the last active ruler of the Ptolemaic kingdom. Her marriages and relationships were intensely political. She married her younger brothers Ptolemy III and later Ptolemy XIV, royal sibling marriage again, and had relationships with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony that secured Roman support for her rule. Darkness has fallen now, but the night is alive with sound and light. Oil lamps and torches illuminate the village, casting warm pools of light against the darkness. People sit outside their homes, enjoying the cool evening air. The smell of cooking fires and dinner preparations fills the night. Cumin, coriander, onions, and garlic spicing the simple stews of vegetables and occasionally meat. Your body feels increasingly heavy and comfortable as you sit in the darkness, listening to the night sounds of ancient Egypt. Your breathing has slowed to a deep, regular rhythm that matches the gentle lapping of the Nile against its banks. Let's shift our focus back to the emotional aspects of Egyptian marriage. We've talked about the practical arrangements, but what about love and romance? The evidence suggests that despite the often pragmatic nature of marriage arrangements, romantic love was highly valued in Egyptian culture. This is perhaps most evident in their love poetry, which is surprisingly direct and passionate. Take these lines from a New Kingdom poem. 7 days since I saw my sister, and sickness has crept over me. My limbs have become heavy, and I cannot feel my own body. Or this one. When I kiss her and her lips open, I am drunk without beer. Pretty steamy, right? These poems express romantic and sexual desire in terms that feel remarkably modern and relatable. The night has deepened around you. Above, the stars are brilliant in a way never seen in the modern world, unpolluted by electric light. The Milky Way stretches across the sky like a river of stars, a cosmic reflection of the Nile below. Your body feels wonderfully heavy, sinking deeper into the earth with each breath. Interestingly, in Egyptian poetry, men and women express desire with equal frankness. Women aren't portrayed as passive recipients of male attention, but as active participants who know what they want. I will lie down inside and pretend to be ill. Then my neighbours will come to see me, and my sister with them. She will make the physicians ashamed, for she knows my sickness. This equality in expressing desire reflects the relatively balanced gender relations in Egyptian society. While not perfectly equal, women had legal rights, social standing, and cultural voice that was unusual in the ancient world. The village has grown quieter now as people retire to their homes. Only a few voices can be heard, along with the occasional barking of dogs and distant sound of music, perhaps from a celebration or gathering somewhere nearby. Your body feels completely at ease, muscles relaxed, breathing deep and regular. Before we end today's journey into ancient Egyptian marriage, let's think about its enduring legacy. The Egyptian approach to marriage, with its emphasis on partnership, its legal protections for women, its acceptance of divorce when necessary, and its celebration of romantic and sexual love, was in many ways ahead of its time. Throughout the rise and fall of later civilizations, marriage would often become more restrictive, especially for women. The relative freedoms and rights of Egyptian women wouldn't be seen again in Western societies until surprisingly recently. Even the Egyptian view of sexuality as a healthy, natural part of life would be replaced in many cultures by more repressive attitudes. Their straightforward acceptance of physical pleasure as one of life's joys, to be celebrated rather than hidden away, offers a refreshing counterpoint to the complicated shame and secrecy that later surrounded human sexuality. The night embraces you like a comfortable blanket, the air cool against your skin after the day's heat. Your body feels deliciously heavy, sinking deeper into the earth with each breath. The sounds of ancient Egypt, the river, the night birds, the distant voices weave together into a soothing lullaby. Tomorrow we'll explore more aspects of love and marriage in ancient Egypt, the beautiful objects they created to express their affection, the elaborate tombs where couples hope to spend eternity together, and the remarkable stories of love that have survived across thousands of years. But for now, you're here in this moment, suspended between worlds, your body completely at ease as the night cradles you in its gentle arms. Your breathing has found the rhythm of the river, deep and steady. The tensions of the day have melted away, leaving only a pleasant heaviness in your limbs. The stars wheel slowly overhead, the same stars that watched over ancient Egypt, that will continue to watch over our world long after we're gone. There's comfort in that continuity, that connection across time, as you rest here at the edge of the ancient world. Morning arrives with a gentle persistence, the first rays of sun warming your face and drawing you from sleep. The air still holds the night's coolness, a precious commodity in Egypt that will evaporate all too soon. You stretch on your reed mat, feeling your muscles awaken pleasantly, loose and rested from the night's deep sleep. Today, you find yourself drawn to a different part of the village, where a group of people has gathered outside a modest but well-kept home. Their voices carry a festive tone, and several hold small bundles or baskets that appear to be gifts. You move closer, curious about what's happening. An older woman notices you and smiles, gesturing for you to join them. "A baby has been born," she explains, her words somehow understandable despite the thousands of years between your languages. "The mother and child have survived the dangerous passage. Now we celebrate." This gathering provides a perfect window into another aspect of Egyptian marriage, childbirth and family life. Having children was considered the primary purpose of marriage, though as we've seen, Egyptians also valued the emotional and physical intimacy between spouses. Your body feels remarkably comfortable in the growing warmth of the morning. You find a spot in the shade of a palm tree, settling in to observe this slice of ancient family life. The rough texture of the tree trunk against your back is oddly soothing, grounding you in this moment across time. Childbirth in ancient Egypt was dangerous for both mother and baby. Women gave birth in a squatting position on special birthing bricks, surrounded by female relatives and midwives who would offer practical help and spiritual support. Amulets, spells, and prayers to protective deities like Tauret, the pregnant hippopotamus goddess, and Bez, the dwarf god who scared away evil spirits, were essential parts of the process. The door of the house opens and a young man emerges, his face glowing with joy and relief. The crowd offers congratulations, pressing their gifts into his hands. Small jars of honey, amulets for protection, swaddling cloths. He accepts each with thanks, occasionally wiping tears from his eyes. This new father's emotional response tells us something important about Egyptian family dynamics. Fathers were actively involved in their children's lives from birth, not distant authority figures, but engaged, loving parents. Egyptian art often shows fathers holding and playing with their children, and wisdom texts advise men to teach their sons and provide for their daughters. Your body settles more comfortably against the tree trunk, a pleasant heaviness spreading through your limbs as you continue watching. The sun climbs higher, but you remain cool in the deep shade. Your breathing has naturally slowed to match the relaxed pace of the village in the growing heat. One by one, female visitors are admitted to the house to see the new mother and baby. They emerge smiling, some wiping away tears of their own. Birth was a community event in ancient Egypt, as it has been in most traditional societies. The collective support helped ensure the survival of mother and child and reinforced social bonds. A small group of musicians has arrived. 2 women with hand drums and a man with a reed flute. They begin to play a gentle, rhythmic tune that feels both celebratory and soothing. The father dances briefly, a spontaneous expression of joy that draws appreciative laughs from the onlookers. The birth of a child transformed a marriage, creating new responsibilities and deepening the bond between spouses. Children were highly valued in Egyptian society, and couples would pray and offer sacrifices to fertility gods if they had trouble conceiving. Medical treatments for infertility included herbal preparations, magical spells, and various folk remedies of questionable effectiveness. Your eyelids feel heavy in the growing heat of the day, your body pleasantly weighted against the ground. The music washes over you in gentle waves, the rhythm somehow matching your heartbeat. You let your eyes close for a moment, surrendering to the sensations of this ancient world. When you open your eyes again, the scene has shifted. The musicians and many of the visitors have departed. The new father sits on a low stool outside his home, cradling a tiny swaddled figure in his arms. His expression as he gazes at his child is one that transcends time. The same look of wonder and fierce love that new parents have worn throughout human history. You rise slowly, your body feeling loose and relaxed despite the heat. Curiosity draws you toward another part of the village where raised voices suggest something less harmonious is unfolding. Your feet move silently on the packed earth as you approach. A middle-aged couple stands outside their home, engaged in what appears to be a serious disagreement. The woman gestures emphatically while the man shakes his head. Neighbours pass by, some slowing to listen, but none interfering directly. This provides us a window into another aspect of Egyptian marriage, conflict and its resolution. Like couples everywhere and in every time, Egyptian spouses argued. They faced challenges both internal, personality clashes, differing expectations, and external, economic pressures, extended family tensions, health crises. How they resolved these conflicts was shaped by their cultural context. Your body finds another comfortable spot in the shade, settling in with that now familiar pleasant heaviness. The heat has intensified, making the air shimmer above the mud brick houses. Most activity has paused as people retreat indoors or to shaded spots like yours, waiting out the worst of the midday sun. The arguing couple eventually reaches some kind of resolution. The woman enters the house while the man walks away toward the fields. Their body language suggests the disagreement has been paused rather than resolved, a common enough pattern in marriages across time and cultures. Egyptian wisdom texts offer advice on avoiding and resolving marital conflicts. One text advises men, if you are a man of standing, you should establish a household and love your wife as is fitting. Fill her belly, clothe her back. Oil is the remedy for her body. Make her heart glad as long as you live. She is a profitable field for her lord. The underlying message is clear. Treat your spouse well, meet their needs, and make them happy. This pragmatic approach recognized that marriages functioned better when both partners were satisfied and their basic needs were met. Your eyelids grow heavy again in the intense midday heat. Around you, the village has fallen silent except for the occasional bark of a dog or cry of a child. Your breathing slows naturally, your muscles completely relaxed as your body sinks deeper into the ground beneath you. When you become aware again, the quality of light has changed. The harsh midday sun has softened to the golden glow of late afternoon. You must have dozed off, your body adapting to the Egyptian rhythm of rest during the hottest hours. You feel refreshed, your limbs pleasantly heavy but energized. The village is coming alive again as people emerge from their homes. The water carriers are making their rounds, hefting heavy jars from house to house. Women gather at the communal ovens, preparing the evening meal. Children play in the dusty streets, their energy renewed by the cooler air. You rise and stretch, your joints popping pleasantly. Your attention is drawn to a small procession making its way through the village. A group of people dressed in their finest linen, adorned with simple jewelry, carrying offerings of food and flowers. They move with purpose toward the small temple at the village edge. Curious, you follow at a respectful distance. Your body moves easily through the warm afternoon air, muscles loose and comfortable after your rest. The procession leads to a modest shrine dedicated to Hathor, the goddess of love, beauty, music, and motherhood, often depicted with cow horns and a sun disk. This provides us a window into the religious aspects of Egyptian marriage. While marriage itself wasn't a religious ceremony, the gods played important roles in all aspects of Egyptian life, including love and family. Couples would pray to various deities for blessings on their marriage. Hathor was particularly associated with feminine love and sexuality. Isis, who searched tirelessly for her murdered husband Osiris, represented faithful married love. Taweret protected pregnant women, while Bes watched over households and childbirth. The procession has reached the shrine now. The offerings are placed before the goddess's image, a beautiful woman with cow's ears, her head crowned with horns and a sun disk. Incense is lit, filling the air with the sweet, heavy scent of kaifi, a mixture of myrrh, frankincense, cinnamon, and other aromatics. You stand at the edge of the gathering, your body feeling increasingly heavy and relaxed as the incense smoke swirls around you. The priest begins a rhythmic chant, his voice rising and falling in patterns that somehow bypass your conscious mind and speak directly to something deeper. This ceremony offers a glimpse into how the spiritual and earthly aspects of marriage were intertwined for ancient Egyptians. The gods weren't distant figures, but present forces in daily life, involved in every aspect of human existence from conception to death and beyond. The chanting continues, growing more hypnotic. Your breathing naturally slows to match its rhythm, your body feeling increasingly heavy and at peace. The golden afternoon light bathes everything in a warm glow that seems to blur the boundaries between the physical world and the divine realm. As the ceremony concludes, the participants disperse, returning to their homes with expressions of peace and satisfaction. You follow the crowd back into the village centre, your body moving with that same pleasant heaviness, as if you're floating slightly above the ground. The village square is busy now with evening activities. Women chat as they prepare food, men gather in groups to discuss the day's work, children play games of skill and chance, dogs weave between it all in eternal hope of scraps. Community life provides the context within which individual marriages existed. You notice an elderly couple sitting together outside their home, watching the activity with contented expressions. They must be in their 50s or 60s, remarkably old for ancient Egypt, where life expectancy for common people was usually 30-40 years. The woman is weaving a basket, her fingers moving with practiced skill despite their gnarled appearance. The man is carving something from a piece of wood, occasionally showing his progress to his wife, who nods approval. This couple represents a successful Egyptian marriage, one that has endured through childbearing years into what we would now call middle age. Their comfortable silence speaks of decades of companionship, their occasional glances holding the easy intimacy of those who know each other deeply. Your body settles onto a low wall near them, the stone still warm from the day's heat. The pleasant weight in your limbs increases as you sit, your breathing slowing to match the peaceful rhythm of the evening. The sounds of village life, conversation, laughter, the clatter of cooking pots create a soothing backdrop. Another fascinating aspect of Egyptian marriage was its expected continuation in the afterlife. The Egyptians believed that death was not the end, but a transition to another form of existence. Married couples were often buried together or in adjoining tombs, with the expectation that they would reunite in the field of reeds, the Egyptian paradise. Tomb paintings frequently show couples together, sometimes holding hands or embracing, surrounded by the activities they enjoyed in life, feasting, music, hunting in the marshes. These images were not just commemorations, but magical aids intended to make these pleasures available to the deceased couple for eternity. The elderly couple has noticed your attention and smiles in your direction. The woman says something to her husband, who nods and calls out an invitation for you to join them. You move closer, settling onto a mat they indicate beside them. Up close, their faces are maps of their lives, lined by sun and experience, but with eyes that remain bright and alert. 52 years, the woman says, somehow understandable to you. We have been together 52 years. She reaches for her husband's hand, their fingers intertwining with the easy familiarity of thousands of such gestures over decades. We were fortunate, the man adds. 6 children and 4 still live, 17 grandchildren. His voice holds the simple pride of a man who has fulfilled his life's purpose according to his culture's values. This long marriage would have been exceptional in ancient Egypt, where average lifespans were short by modern standards, yet it represents the ideal, a lifelong partnership that produced children, contributed to the community, and would continue into eternity. Your body feels increasingly heavy and relaxed as you sit with this elderly couple in the fading light. The day's heat is dissipating, replaced by the pleasant coolness of evening. Your breathing has slowed to a deep, regular rhythm that matches the peaceful pace of life around you. As darkness falls, oil lamps are lit throughout the village, casting warm pools of golden light against the deepening blue of night. The elderly couple's daughter brings them a simple meal: bread, onions, a bit of fish from the Nile, a small jar of beer. They share it with natural grace, occasionally offering you portions which somehow appear in your hands, though you don't remember reaching for them. The night deepens around you. Stars appear, brilliant and numerous in a way never seen in the modern world with its light pollution. The Milky Way arches overhead, a river of stars mirroring the Nile below. Your body feels wonderfully heavy now, sinking into the earth as if becoming part of this ancient world. The elderly husband begins to tell a story, a tale of Isis and Osiris, the divine couple whose love conquered even death. His voice is melodic, practiced in the art of storytelling that was so central to Egyptian culture before writing became common. His wife occasionally adds details he forgets, their shared telling creating a seamless narrative. This myth of eternal love reflected the Egyptian ideal of marriage, a bond so strong it transcended mortality. When Osiris was murdered and his body scattered, Isis searched tirelessly until she found and reassembled him, even conceiving their son Horus after his death. This divine example provided the pattern for human marriages, faithful, enduring, extending beyond the grave. Your eyelids feel increasingly heavy as the old man's voice washes over you, his words creating pictures in your mind of gods and goddesses, love and loss, death and rebirth. Your breathing has become deep and regular, your body completely relaxed in the cool night air. The story ends, but its echoes remain in your mind as the elderly couple bids you good night. They rise with the careful movements of age and make their way into their home, supporting each other with practiced ease. The woman turns at the doorway to smile at you once more before they disappear inside. You remain seated on the mat, your body too pleasantly heavy to move just yet. Around you, the village is settling for the night. Voices quiet, lamps are extinguished one by one until only the stars provide light. The air carries the sense of cooling earth, distant cooking fires, and the ever-present Nile. Tomorrow we'll explore the final aspects of love and marriage in ancient Egypt, the beautiful objects they created to express their affection, the elaborate preparations for the afterlife where they hoped to spend eternity together, and the legacy of their approach to marriage that continues to resonate through history. But for now, you're here in this moment, suspended between worlds, your body completely at ease as the ancient Egyptian night embraces you in its gentle arms. Your breathing has found the rhythm of the sleeping village, deep and steady. The tensions of the day have melted away, leaving only a pleasant heaviness in your limbs. The stars wheel slowly overhead, the same stars that watched over ancient Egypt, that will continue to watch over our world long after we're gone. There's comfort in that continuity, that connection across time, as you rest here at the edge of the ancient world. You wake to the gentle touch of dawn light on your face. The air still holds the night's coolness, a blessed relief before the heat returns. For a moment you're disoriented, caught between your modern reality and this ancient world you've been exploring. Then the sounds and smells of Egypt flood your senses, anchoring you once more in this distant past. The scent of baking bread drifts through the air, mingled with the ever-present earthy aroma of the Nile. Outside, you can hear the village coming to life. The soft pad of bare feet on packed earth, the clatter of pottery, the calls of awakening birds. Your body feels surprisingly rested, loose and comfortable on the simple reed mat. Today you find yourself drawn to a different part of the village, where skilled artisans work. The narrow street opens into a small courtyard where several workshops cluster together. The sound of hammering, the hiss of metal cooling in water, the rasp of sandstone on wood, all blend together in the rhythmic symphony of creation. You pause at the entrance to a jeweller's workshop, fascinated by the delicate work taking place inside. A middle-aged man sits cross-legged on a mat, bent over a small copper table. His fingers move with incredible precision as he shapes a piece of carnelian into a heart amulet. Beside him, a younger man, perhaps his son, carefully strings beads of lapis lazuli, turquoise, and gold onto a linen thread. The jewelry being created here offers another window into Egyptian concepts of love and marriage. Egyptians adored personal adornment, and jewelry wasn't just decorative, it carried deep symbolic and sometimes magical significance. Heart amulets, like the one being crafted, represented not just romantic love, but the seat of thought, emotion, and character. Your body settles comfortably against a mud brick wall, the rough texture pleasantly grounding against your back. The morning air is still cool enough to be refreshing, and you breathe deeply, filling your lungs with the scents of the workshop, hot metal, stone dust, beeswax, and the faint sweetness of the gum arabic used as adhesive. The jeweller looks up and notices you watching. He smiles and holds up his work, the carnelian heart now complete, polished to a deep red glow. He says something in a language you shouldn't understand, but somehow do, a gift of love for a man to give his wife on the birth of their first child. This reminds you of how Egyptians marked significant moments in their marriages with gifts. While they didn't have wedding rings as we know them today, they exchanged jewelry at important milestones: marriage itself, the birth of children, significant anniversaries. These weren't just pretty trinkets, but carried protective and symbolic power. Your attention shifts to a woman entering the workshop. She's dressed in finer linen than most villagers, her eyes lined with kohl, a simple gold necklace around her throat. From the way the jeweller greets her, she's clearly an expected and valued customer. She's come to collect a commissioned piece, a bracelet of gold and turquoise that the younger craftsman presents with evident pride. As she tries on the bracelet, her face lights up with pleasure. The jeweller explains that the pattern of Ankh symbols and protective eyes of Horus will bring her health and safety. She pays him with a small pouch that clinks with what might be metal rings. Egypt didn't have coined money yet, but used standardized weights of precious metals for larger transactions. Your body feels increasingly comfortable as you continue watching, a pleasant heaviness settling into your limbs. The morning sun warms your skin, not yet hot enough to be uncomfortable. Your breathing has naturally slowed to match the steady rhythm of the artisans at work. The woman leaves, her new bracelet catching the sunlight as she walks away. The jeweller returns to his work, but now he's crafting something different. A small figurine of Hathor, the goddess of love and beauty. His hands move with practiced precision, shaping the cow-eared goddess from a piece of blue faience. These figurines were popular offerings at temples and household shrines. Couples would pray to Hathor for fertility, sexual pleasure, and harmony in their marriages. Unlike many later cultures, the Egyptians saw divine blessing in all aspects of marital love: emotional, physical, and procreative. As the morning advances, your curiosity draws you away from the jeweller's workshop and toward a different sound, the rhythmic chanting of mourners. Following it, you come to the edge of the village where a funeral procession is forming. The body, wrapped in linen, is being placed on a simple wooden bier. Family members gather around, some wearing blue mourning bands in their hair. This offers a final, essential window into Egyptian marriage, how it was believed to continue after death. For the Egyptians, death wasn't the end, but a transition to another form of existence. The elaborate preparations for burial, the tomb goods, the mummification process, all were designed to ensure the deceased would enjoy eternal life. Your body finds a respectful distance from which to observe, settling onto a low stone wall. The heat is building now, but you're partially shaded by a sycamore fig tree. Your limbs feel pleasantly heavy as you watch the procession begin its slow journey toward the cemetery at the desert's edge. For married couples, tomb preparations often reflected their desire to remain together for eternity. Husband and wife might be buried in the same tomb or in adjoining chambers. Their grave goods would include the things they enjoyed in life: furniture, clothing, jewelry, games, and sometimes images or models of servants to attend them in the afterlife. Tomb paintings and reliefs often showed the couple seated together at an offering table, holding hands or embracing. These images weren't just commemorative, but magically effective, designed to make the reality they depicted come true in the afterlife. Through these representations, the couple would continue to enjoy each other's company for eternity. Your eyes follow the funeral procession as it grows smaller in the distance, heading toward the desert cemetery. The mourners' chants fade gradually, replaced by the everyday sounds of the village. Children playing, women talking as they work, the distant lowing of cattle. The sun is high now, the heat intense. Most villagers have retreated indoors or to shaded spots to wait out the worst of it. Your own body feels increasingly heavy in the midday warmth, your eyelids wanting to close. The rough stone wall beneath you is still cool enough to be comfortable against your back. As your thoughts drift in the heat, you reflect on everything you've learned about love and marriage in ancient Egypt. There's something both foreign and deeply familiar about their approach, different in its specific cultural expressions, but recognizable in its human emotions and needs. The Egyptians created a marriage system that, while not perfect by modern standards, offered surprising freedoms and protections, especially for women. Their celebration of romantic and sexual love, their practical approach to living together, their belief in marriage extending beyond death, all speak to a culture that valued the deep bonds between partners. Your consciousness floats between the present and this ancient past, your body completely relaxed in the midday heat. The sounds of the village have faded to almost nothing, just the occasional bark of a dog or cry of a child breaking the stillness. Your breathing has slowed to a deep, regular rhythm that matches the timeless pulse of the Nile flowing nearby. When you become aware again, the quality of light has changed. The harsh midday sun has softened to the golden glow of late afternoon. You must have dozed off, your body naturally adapting to the Egyptian pattern of rest during the hottest hours. You feel refreshed, though your limbs remain pleasantly heavy. The village is coming alive again as people emerge from their homes. The water carriers make their rounds, women gather at the communal ovens, children resume their games in the dusty streets. The rhythms of daily life continue, just as they have for thousands of years. You rise slowly, your joints loosening with pleasant pops and stretches. Your feet carry you toward the Nile, drawn by some instinct to complete your journey where Egypt's life begins and ends. The great river gleams in the late afternoon light, a ribbon of gold winding through the green valley. Along its banks, you notice a young couple walking hand in hand. They pause occasionally to look at each other, their expressions holding that timeless mixture of desire, affection, and hope that defines new love in any era. They could be from any time. Their emotions transcend the centuries that separate their world from yours. This, perhaps, is the most profound lesson from ancient Egyptian marriage, that while cultural expressions change, human hearts remain recognizable across millennia. The desire for connection, for understanding, for building a life with someone who sees and values us, these are constants of the human experience. Your body settles onto the soft grass of the riverbank, sinking into the natural contours of the earth. The air here is cooler, carrying the river's breath. Your muscles release their tension, becoming increasingly heavy and relaxed as you watch the young couple continue their walk, eventually disappearing around a bend in the shoreline. The sun is setting now, painting the sky in vivid strokes of orange, pink, and deep purple. The first stars appear, brightening as the light fades. On the opposite bank, fishermen are lighting torches on their boats, preparing for night fishing. The flames reflect in the dark water, creating dancing patterns of gold against the depths. Your eyelids feel increasingly heavy as darkness gathers. Your breathing has slowed to a deep, regular rhythm that matches the gentle lapping of the Nile against its banks. The day's experiences swirl in your mind. The jeweler crafting symbols of love, the funeral procession preparing for eternity, the young couple walking by the river, all pieces of the complex mosaic that was marriage in ancient Egypt. The night deepens around you. The air cools, but you feel perfectly comfortable, your body heavy and warm against the earth. The stars multiply until the sky is filled with their brilliance, unpolluted by modern lights. The Milky Way stretches across the heavens, a celestial echo of the Nile below. Your consciousness begins to drift, floating between this ancient world and the edges of sleep. The sounds of night birds, distant voices from the village, and the eternal murmur of the river blend into a soothing lullaby. Your muscles have completely relaxed, your body feeling as though it's sinking gently into the ground beneath you. As you hover on the threshold of sleep, you reflect one final time on what you've learned. The ancient Egyptians approached marriage with a practical wisdom that balanced social needs with personal happiness. They recognized the importance of legal protections and property rights, but also celebrated the profound emotional and physical connection between spouses. They saw marriage not as a single ceremony, but as a journey that extended beyond death into eternity. Your eyes close fully now, too heavy to keep open. Your breathing deepens further, becoming slow and regular. The weight of your body against the earth is profoundly comforting, as if you're being held in gentle, invisible arms. The borders between you and the ancient world begin to blur. Time itself becoming fluid and dreamlike. Perhaps there's wisdom for us in the Egyptian approach to marriage, their straightforward acceptance of human needs and desires, their balance of pragmatism and romance, their vision of love as something that transcends mortality. As different as their world was from ours, their hearts beat with the same hopes and fears, joys and sorrows. Your mind grows quieter now, thoughts slowing and stretching like honey poured from a jar. The sounds of ancient Egypt, the Nile, the night birds, the distant village fade into a gentle background hum that cradles your consciousness. Your body has become wonderfully heavy, sinking deeper into relaxation with each breath. Sleep begins to embrace you, soft and irresistible. The stories of ancient Egyptian couples, from powerful pharaohs and their queens to humble farmers and their wives, continue to echo in your mind, but more distantly now, like voices heard through water. Their love stories preserved in poetry and art, in tomb paintings and precious amulets, have survived thousands of years to touch your heart. Your breathing becomes the rhythm of the river, deep and eternal. The weight of your eyelids is too great to resist, your muscles completely surrendered to gravity's gentle pull. The boundaries between your body and the earth beneath you seem to dissolve, as if you're becoming part of this ancient land. The last threads of waking thought unravel into the approaching depths of sleep. You're vaguely aware of the stars wheeling slowly overhead, the same stars that watched over countless Egyptian marriages that will continue their silent journey long after our brief lives have ended. There's profound peace in that continuity, that connection across time. And now, Sleep takes you completely, drawing you down into its warm, dark waters. Your conscious mind surrenders to dreams, perhaps of golden palaces along the Nile, of lovers exchanging lotus flowers, of couples reuniting in the field of reeds for all eternity. The ancient Egyptians believed that dreams were messages from the gods or glimpses of the other world. Who knows what wisdom they might whisper to you in the depths of night? As you drift deeper into sleep, carried on the current of history, the last sensation is of profound peace, your body completely at rest, your mind quiet, your spirit connected across the millennia to those ancient people who, like us, sought love, created families, and hoped their bonds would last forever. Sleep well, dreamer of ancient dreams, sleep well.